Well, good morning again, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Brad Power. I'm the Director of Programs with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. Thanks for coming together this morning for this next webinar in our series of educational and product demonstrations. I'd like to thank our partners at LeGrow Insurance for joining us this morning. This webinar is brought to you by your partners, but also MNL Advantage, your membership services program. Today's topic, COVID-19 in your community, 5 best practices for managing risk. And we have with us today our friends at LeGrow, including Kevin Casey, Marg Ryan, Charlene Ford, and Donna Foley. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. The webinar today will be approximately 30 minutes. There will be a Q&A session after the presentation. You have a number of ways that you can participate in the Q&A. Feel free to post your question in the chat function of the Zoom app. You may also email it to bpower@municipalnl.ca, or you can text me at 709-763-4686, and I'll bring the questions forward to our panelists at the end of the session. As you may or may not know, the Zoom app, which is what you're using here this morning, has many features to help you participate. So feel free to play around and use the various functions that are available. You can share, you can split your screen. You can look at all the presenters at the same time as the screen. So feel free to take a second now to play around with that function. The presentation and video from this webinar will be posted online in the coming days, and it will be available in real time. So if you know anyone that missed the webinar this morning, they can just follow the registration link that was previously sent out by MNL, and they'll be able to watch the video for the next couple of days, and then we'll post it to our website for some time as well. So after the webinar, I kindly ask that you complete our webinar satisfaction survey. I will put the link in the chat function, but you'll also receive an email when the webinar concludes that you can click on. It will take about 2 minutes, but it will be extremely important to us to get your input because it's going to be important for MNL moving forward, certainly in the post-COVID era. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand the mic over to Kevin Casey, who will introduce our panelists and start up the presentation. So Kevin, over to you, sir.
Perfect, Brad. Thank you. My name is Kevin Casey. I'm one of the owners at LeGrow, and some of our other teams are other owners I know are on the call, Rod Batcher and Jeff LeGrow. So welcome to you all. It's great to see over 40 people registered for this. I know everyone's days are busy and lots happening, so thank you. And we really want to work hard to make sure this is a good use of your time and you take something away. I know you know all of our MNL team. Marg and Donna have been around the municipal business for over 30 years. I think if Jeopardy had a special show on municipal insurance, I think they would go right to the Daily Double and probably beat any other contestant in Canada. So they have lived most of their careers in municipal insurance. And Charlene, who's been in the business for over 15 years, joined the municipal team about a year ago, and we're glad to have her on board. And each of our people will be talking today and covering some topics. And, I can say this isn't nearly as special as hanging out at symposiums and conferences and all the fun little watering holes we get to hang out at, but I think we're all trying to do the best we can to stay connected, even if it's virtually in these days. The other thing is, we've all known Brad Power a long time, and there's not many events, whether they're in person or digitally, where I don't see him with a tie on. And I was almost tempted to show him up a little bit and wear a tie, because this may never happen again that I get to wear a tie when Brad Power isn't. So I was tempted to outdress him, but, I want to stay in his friend group, so I'll just hang it over with Brad. So I do a little bit of my Brad Power look here a little bit. History's been made. The other thing, folks, I would love to invite you on Friday. I'm going to be joined by 2 really smart digital marketing folks, much younger than me at LeGrow. And we're going to kind of tackle a topic that I think is going to be really important for the towns and the cities and the communities moving forward, which is social media. I think post-COVID, we're going to have to look ways to find a way to use social media and all the different platforms to tackle things like tourism and economic development, and making sure that we're kind of hitting the reset switch and keep our community connected in terms of pride and confidence. So we're going to do that this Friday at 11. You can register as you did for this. We're going to make it super fast paced. We're going to use a lot of examples from municipalities around the world that we've uncovered. And Scott McDonald and Robin Budgell are going to join me. We're going to go through some Hall of Fame examples. And we're going to also show you some Hall of Shame examples, because as Marg always reminds me, there's risk even when you do social media poorly. So we're going to cover that on Friday. Again, it's free. And thank you for MNL and Brad and Craig and the team for allowing us to do that. So register if you can for Friday. I promise it'll be a good way to end your week. So no doubt that COVID-19 has turned all our worlds upside down. We manage about over 95% of all the towns and cities and communities through our insurance program, and we're proud to be your partner. We know so many of you carry a lot of responsibility, and we know there's not a lot of shoulders to delegate that to, but the teams are small and they're strong. Public health and safety, essential services, the economy, the financial well-being, even down to source and PPE gear and the food supply. We know this is on your daily to-do lists. So your world is not easy these days in municipalities, and we appreciate you taking 45 minutes or so with us today. And certainly the face of risk and exposures have changed and emerged. And I think as partners, our jobs are more important than ever. And Marg and Charlene and Donna are safely working at home, but they're available by phone, text, email. So as much as business is unusual, for us it's business as usual. So we are always connected and there for you, and we know there's lots of questions. I think when we chatted preparing for this, there could have been about 10 topics we could have picked, but we really wanted to focus on a handful. And each person's going to cover a couple of these topics, but the real magic for these happen when you get to ask questions. So we encourage you to use the chat room, ask us a question. Any member of our team will do our very best to answer it, but I find the real magic happens when you ask the questions, and that's where you get a lot of the information. So let's get on with the show. I'm going to pass this off to the fearless leader of our municipal team, which is Marg Ryan. So over to you, Marg.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see so many signed up. Insurance doesn't necessarily tend to be the most exciting topic for most. It is in our world. Obviously, we're dealing with it every day, but you know, here we'll go. So we kind of wanted to talk about a couple of different topics: risk management, how your policy currently is, and how it may or may not respond during this most difficult time. So first, we're going to talk. I'll speak a little bit to the liability insurance and how that relates to COVID, as well as how to protect your municipality. So starting off, just to explain the coverage from the standpoint of what is covered under the Municipal General Liability Program that we have in partnership with the MNL. The definition of the coverage of your operations is pretty broad. It covers all operations usual to a municipality. So as most of you know, you've probably seen or heard that term or that phrase coming from our office on many an occasion when we've been asked about coverage and liability. So whatever you're doing, basically from recreational to water and sewer, you know, whatever services you're providing, they are protected under your general liability. There is no, and I stress no, pandemic exclusion under the liability section of your policy. Therefore, your policy would respond if allegations of negligence related to COVID-19 was brought against you, obviously subject to the policy terms and conditions, of course, But basically, if somebody makes a claim against you in relationship to this period of time that we're going through, that information would just be passed over to us, and we would have that investigated on your behalf. The coverage doesn't just cover the incorporated municipality. The definition of the insured under your policy includes not only the incorporated body, the town of or the city of, it also includes mayor, councillors, town employees, as well as volunteers who are acting on behalf of and at the direction of the municipality. So the coverage is pretty broad. You know, the defense is there for our current situation, as it has been and always will be for the other issues that may arise in your day-to-day operations. So how would you protect yourself? Well, in these times, obviously, I'm sure you're already doing it, is to follow the COVID protocols. Those are the ones that will be set down by the provincial and federal regulations that they've put in place in the protocols, as well as anything that are any events and things that are done by the public health authorities. So you need to follow those procedures, and as a best practice. On MNL website, there's tons of resources and links. So, you know, we're not going to go into any of that here today. I do encourage you, if you haven't already, and I'm sure most of you have been in there many times, with regards to what resources and links that they have available and set out. They also send out on a regular basis those updates. So from our standpoint, we strongly recommend, as we always have in the past, is to document, document, and document. Those three words, or that one word we repeat on a three basis, is certainly what we need to help you at the end of the day. If somebody brings a claim against you, the first thing we need to do is to speak with you, find out what happened, what were the circumstances involved. And the only way to do that is to make sure you're documenting what you're doing as you're going along. So the COVID-19 is no different than any other time from what we've asked you to do to help protect yourself and to help us defend and protect you as well, is to keep track of what you're doing. What are your procedures? Have them written down. When you close a building, what are you doing? Social distancing, how are you handling that with your staff and with others? How are you cleaning your buildings? The staff, how would your staff interact with residents if you get a call? The fact that, you know, while others are closed down, municipalities are still open for business, though on a different scale than what it was before. It is still certainly, you need to be able to respond to some of those issues. So having the protocols, if you're going to somebody's home, as to, you know, the gloves somebody is wearing, that you have the mask in place, both to protect yourself and to protect the residents. So these are all important things that I'm sure you're following, but you do need to keep track of it, document it, so that if a claim comes in 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, because that can happen on a liability policy, that you need to be able to demonstrate that you did everything that was reasonable. And, you know, the onus is certainly on the person bringing the claim against you to prove that you were negligent in some way. So again, at the end of the day, documentation is what we use to defend you on a claim. So the next section that we are going to talk about is a little bit about business income or business interruption, that I'm sure you've heard the term out there. The program through MNL does include some business income on all municipalities. There are some that have higher limits because they have a larger exposure and they have purchased higher limits. But our program and with Northbridge is no different than with any other insurance carrier these days, that there is no coverage related to your loss of income due to the pandemic. It is not something that a insurance company would be able to you know, anticipate for sure that would happen to a country and to the world, in fact. But as you can well imagine, an insurance company or anyone else to be able to carry the economy basically is what would be asked of an insurance company in that case. That's why the federal and provincial governments have put the plans in place to help businesses and individuals during this most difficult time. So just to carry on, part of a business interruption coverage also sometimes has extra expenses. So Northbridge, who's the insurance carrier that we use on the program, has a endorsement that is included already in your policy. And the endorsement is referred to as the outbreak extra expense endorsement. And this part of the policy is intended to cover some of those extra expenses that may occur in order for you to keep some normal business going on. These would be expenses over and above your regular business operations. It would be considered or cover some things like maybe a laptop that needed to be purchased in order for a staff member to work from home. But it would it's directly related to the pandemic outbreak. So the coverage is there. The limit is up to $10,000 is the maximum that would be paid. So, you know, those are the type of things to consider. But unfortunately, your day-to-day loss of income, you know, whether that's from residents late or slow making payments on their taxes, or the loss of revenue from your various recreational facilities and stuff, unfortunately would not be covered under this, and hopefully would be some extensions available through some of the government plan. So having said that, I'm going to pass it over to Charlene, and Charlene's going to speak to you a little bit about your actual structures and things to do there. Go ahead, Charlene. Charlene, are you there?
Yes, Charlene,
Yeah.
you're going to unmute. There you go.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
You're back.
Today I'm going to talk to you about building and recreational area closures and what we need to know. Even though temporary closures are currently in place, all your buildings and your recreational spaces currently listed on your policy continue to be insured. We just need to make a few notes to ensure your buildings are secured. You check your buildings and your recreational areas at least every 72 hours. And as Barb said, document. Keep records of who checked the buildings and the recreational areas, when they were checked, and note and report any damage or incidents. As well, you need to have some visible signage of the building or the area closure. You need to maintain your utilities like your heat and your light, and ensure any security alarms are in good working condition. As we prepare to reopen, we need to follow all government regulations prior to reopening, some extra cleaning measures and social distancing protocols, and always ensure all spaces and your equipment are safe for operation. Enjoy and stay safe once we all reopen. Now I'm going to pass this presentation off to Donna Foley to talk to you on cyber risk.
Good morning, everyone. During this pandemic, in an effort to stay safe and practice social distancing, we find ourselves working from home, which is very unusual for all of us. But this is now our new normal. By using personal computers, iPads, iPhones, and other similar devices outside the safety of our own security at the office, this opens the doors for cyber criminals to attack for their own personal and monetary gains. First of all, what is cyber risk? It commonly refers to privacy breaches or compromised data, which may result in financial losses or disruption of service, and it can damage your reputation. So what can we do to protect ourselves in these trying times already? First of all, education. Continually making your staff aware of the importance of computer security. Develop a clear, bring your own devices policy in place. Proper Wi-Fi practices and social media policy to share with staff. Everybody uses Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. So it's very important not to use these while you're working, because we're opening ourselves open to these cyber criminals. Social engineering is very huge, and education is key. Users must be trained, never click on suspicious links, and always guard your login credentials. This applies whether you're working from home or at work or at the office. The next thing, back up your data. It's important that your data be backed up regularly and in more than one place. If you're using an external hard drive, don't leave your backup connected to your device when not in use. That's a very dangerous practice. Thirdly, protect your portable devices. Keep device software updated. Do not connect to public hotspots. That's a very dangerous practice as well. Scan for malware and use strong passwords, because predictable passwords can get you in trouble. In the next slide, you will see it's a sample CEO cyber scam, Jeff LeGrow. So in this particular scam, the staff member received from the CEO a request to send a wire transfer. And this particular example, the company lost $40,000 because the staff member sent that wire transfer. So there's a lot of things that you can do to try to avoid this. First of all, in the email address, you could hover your mouse over the address to see if it's legitimate from your CEO, and it probably wouldn't be, because I'm sure he or she would not be asking for this information the way that this email states. So call your mayor, your counselor, your CEO, and ask that person, do you really need this money? And I'm sure the answer will be no. In the next slide, there's an actual, this is an example of social engineering. It's called a smishing scam. Basically, it's a scam that you would receive by text. So as you can see, we're all very vulnerable these days, and we need information about COVID-19. So in this text message, I'm getting something saying someone who came in contact with you tested positive or has shown symptoms of COVID-19 and recommends you self-isolate, get tested. More at, then you got your link. We are all so frightened to death here, because if I got that text message, I would be worried. So if you go into that link, you could be opening yourself up to the scammers getting all kinds of personal information. So please be careful, watch what you're clicking, and use your devices safely. Thank you.
Okay, back to, I'm back again. I'm the one that does most of the talking apparently in this group, but that's not unusual for me. So the last thing that we wanted to talk about, I guess, is not as much as a risk management as much as to let you know that we are here and that we got your backs. As Kevin mentioned earlier, and we've spoken, is that we have moved from our office to our offices across the island, actually in other locations. We're not just in St. John's. That we have moved to our homes, and we are working directly from there. It's the same as if we were sitting in our office. Everybody has their computer system home, their screens, everything, contact information. You call our office number, you're getting directly to each one of our cell phones or home phones in order to take your calls and answer those questions you might have. We are also, in a few years back, we switched from the paper files to a system file, which also made it that much easier for us to be working from home to serve your insurance needs and questions, in that your file is also accessible to each and every one of us to answer your questions that you might have during these times. The next thing, just to bring you up to date and how things have changed a little from our standpoint, is that we are now and have been in the process of changing from paper documents to electronic documents. Most of the documents that we do receive from our insurers on your behalf are sent to us electronically. So we have now started that process full board, obviously during these times, but we'll continue to do that. It gives you access to your file at a moment's notice, no paper wasted. And so we trust that you'll find that to be a better service as well for you. The contact information will remain the same, but I wanted to mention and have a little information there about claims reporting. So for claims, again, you can contact a member of our team. Most times our claims are already usually reported either over the phone or quite often through email, where the town managers, town clerks, or whoever is reporting that on behalf of the municipality will provide us the basic details of the claim, maybe send us some pictures and stuff. So that is always a great way to report that to us. So that continues to be the same. As well, if a claim occurs in the evening and you're not able to reach us, or if it's on the weekend, then you can report your claim directly to Northbridge Claims. The number is there on the screen, 588-621-6262, or you can go on their website and you can report the claim directly to them. And they have a process there. So again, that keeps it a little bit easier for you to know where to call and what to do if it's not during our regular hours to reach us. So the last thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is a benefit that's currently under the program and has been for quite some time. While we don't necessarily have a lot of take up on it, we feel, and MNL feel, that this is a great benefit to the municipalities to be able to use. And it is offered by Northbridge. It's called Legal Assist Benefit. This benefit is 100% free of charge to you. There's no cost associated with taking advantage of this benefit other than your time to make the call. You see the number there on the screen to call. But what it gives you is legal advice on various areas of the law, including things like labor, tax, administrative, employment law issues. There's no question too small. If you're looking at a contract and you have some questions about the legal part of that, you can call this number. You will reach a legal counsel, a lawyer who is licensed in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador to answer those questions for you. Again, there's no cost, so there's no risk involved. So we're talking about risk. This is no risk for you to use it. The calls and the information that is provided and discussed is held in the strictest confidence. It is the same as if you're speaking to your own lawyer. It's not something they share with us. It's not something that they would share with Northbridge. This is truly a service available to you. I know MNL has some other benefits around the legal side of things, But, you know, I urge you to use this when you have some questions that they may be able to help. Anyway, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'll pass it back over to Brad, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. And if we don't know the answers, we'll find out and get back to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Marg, and thank you, Charlene and Donna and Kevin for a great presentation this morning. For everyone on the webinar, this is our opportunity to pose questions to our panelists. Again, just a reminder, you can use the chat function in the Zoom app. You can email bpower@municipalnl.ca if you haven't done so already, and you can also text 709-763-4686. So while we wait to see if any questions come in, I do just want to reiterate the great partnership that we have with LeGrow. I think this is what we've offered here today is certainly a new way of bringing our partners into your homes and workplaces. I think this is something that we're going to do a lot more moving forward, and I know LeGrow has no shortage of great topics that they can bring to our membership. One question just came in, Mary, just a reminder for our participants. What is the number for that Legal Assist legal advice line?
The Legal Assist, it's 1-800, oh, there you go, up on the screen, 1-800-786-0656.
Okay, another question that just came in, would an app like Zoom be covered under extra expenses or Dropbox, personal protective equipment, etc.?
I can answer off the top of my head. I certainly, whoever the participant is, if you would send that to us, I need to obviously make sure that it's a municipality we have, but I think everybody on the list was. And I'll go directly to Northbridge to get clarification on it for you.
Excellent, and we'll certainly follow up after as well. Is the Legal Assist only for legal questions related to insurance?
No, they're not legal questions related to insurance at all. They're legal questions related to general law. So it would be something to do with labor law. If you're dealing with an employment issue with a new employee or an existing employee, and you got questions from that standpoint, what the legal answer would be. If it's to do with, you know, tax issues, and I can't tell, you know, I don't know how much they'd be able to answer on COVID at the moment. Certainly that would be new, but it is general types of contracts that you're getting into. If you were leasing a premises, if you're renting out your premises and you wanted to check the legal way that form or that contract is done, they would help you with that.
Excellent. Okay, so I don't see any additional questions. So I'd like to thank our panelists. And
Brad, you did skip one question.
Oh, sorry, I just came in. So in regard to cyber risk, is there any particular protection software recommended for protection on handheld devices? Really good question. Do you want to have a quick comment on that, maybe?
Well, with respect to, you know, it's like any other type of device. So certainly it would be, you know, it would fall under anything that could happen, you know, from a cyber criminal trying to get into your phone, etc. So I could certainly check on, you know, how it can be covered under a policy. So if you want to send that information in, I can certainly follow up on that for you.
Brad, one thing I was going to suggest, certainly we could have probably spent a whole 20 minutes talking about cyber. It's probably one of the biggest emerging risks that is going to happen, certainly with people working remotely. And even what this looks like when people go back to work, there may be more flex schedules and more people working from home. You know, COVID-19's brought out the best in people, but it's also brought out the worst in people. And some of those people have found very clever ways that look very real, guys. These emails, and we're in the insurance business, and we've gotten these from our CEO looking for us to pick up gift cards or send money. And no one does this maliciously when you click on things, but there's got to be a heightened sense of awareness. And I think one of the things that Donna and some of the team are working on are some examples of what this looks like, because sometimes when you use words like social engineering and phishing, I mean, it sounds like things you should be doing on the weekend in a pond.
Mhm.
I think we're going to try to maybe do a dedicated session on that and show some examples. And a lot of people don't admit when it happens because it's fear of embarrassment or confidence, whether it's their customers. But these people are not picking on the Air Canadas or the Walmarts of the world. They're starting to pick on small businesses, medium businesses, and municipalities. So this cyber is not a term that's out of reach for us to consider anymore. And Brad, you know, I think just by some of the feedback, that may be a question that we try to tackle in the future.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah, Kevin, to that point, our partners at TELUS Business will be offering up a webinar on cybersecurity resources, specifically the tools that they employ to support municipalities toward the end of the month. Their webinar will be very specific about what offerings they have and what solutions they can employ. However, I think a more general webinar, exactly as you had suggested, on some of the tips and tricks from an operational perspective, but also showing examples similar to what you just did. So we'll certainly engage in that for sure.
and there was one question, Brad. Someone said, do I know how to do a tie? And no, I don't, but I will get a lesson from Brad when we get back to real life, and I will do up this tie for the next conference.
Sounds good. One last question, and maybe this is something I can answer. Triffy Parsons asks, she has heard that there's some issues with Zoom. Free version has had some cyber issues. Triffy, we are aware of those issues. As a paid subscriber to Zoom, MNL has been watching that very, very closely. So we've employed things like utilizing this webinar setup as opposed to just hosting a meeting. We also utilize waiting rooms on our meetings and things like that now. But I think you can rest assured that Zoom has identified that they did have some security issues early in the game. They've upgraded their security, and actually on the beginning of May, they're going to employ a much more rigorous encryption process. Many of you using the app this morning and have used it in the past may note there's actually a small shield in the top left-hand corner of your screen right now, which actually indicates that this meeting itself is encrypted and that security is in place. I will also note that our Parliament will be holding its first session remotely, I think next week or this week, via the Zoom app for all 300 plus MPs. So I think we can rest assured that Zoom is safe at this stage, but we will all monitor that as we go forward, because we want to make sure we don't just put ourselves into a situation where we can receive a cyber attack when we could foresee it. So again, no additional questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time this morning. Kevin, Mark, Charlene, Donna, and of course, Robin in the background controlling the presentation. Thanks so much for coming out. Just a reminder to our panelists that we do have a wealth of information on our website related to COVID, but also the listing of our upcoming webinars is available there as well. Before we do part ways, I do ask that you have just a quick reminder to fill out MNL's webinar satisfaction survey. I promise it will literally take 2 minutes. The link is in the chat function, but you'll also receive it in an email. So feel free to register for some of those upcoming webinars. Thank you again for joining us. Be safe, wash your hands, and take care and have a great morning, folks.